Good morning, everyone. Welcome back for day 2 of our Kentucky United We Learn Council convening. Welcome, welcome. How does everybody feel after one day? Good, good. Energized? Ready to knock it out today? All right, that's good. So today we're just going to go right into our work groups, but we are changing the rooms a little bit. And we were also just talking about giving you a little bit extra time. Right now it says we're going to finish up work groups at 11. Let's go till 11:15. So we're going to give you an extra 15 minutes. We cut yesterday a little bit short. We're going to give you that extra 15 minutes. So at 11:15, we'll come back down here. We'll do our share outs from the work groups, have some end of day reflections, and then lunch. Now, if your group needs to continue to work, you are free to have a working lunch in here or take it back to the room that you were in if everybody feels like you need to do that. Our rooms are available all day. So all of the rooms, all of the workout rooms are available all day. We have this agenda ending at lunch, but if you have a group that needs to keep going, I know some of you are like, no, please, no. But if you do need to, you are welcome to do that. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. All right. I did ask a couple people to give some reflections on yesterday. So Erica, would you like to start?
I'll be honest, Karen made me nervous when she asked me yesterday. I was like, are you crazy? Anyway, so I feel like we have come really far in this work that we've been doing, and I'm really proud of what we've accomplished so far, and I'm excited to see what where we're going to end up with this. I went to a different group yesterday than what I'd been working on, and I feel like that was a good move for me, and I was happy that I've had that opportunity to do that. I was honestly feeling a little bit lost, and I feel like I have found a place that I am going to be able to be more beneficial, and I'm very excited just about everything that's going on and what we're doing and the changes that I hope are coming down the line for our kids and our families and the state of Kentucky.
Thank you, Erica. Jordan, you want to come up?
I thought this reflection was supposed to be at the end of the day today. So in my mind, I was doing this about 3 hours from now. So I'm a little nervous now. Yeah. So my two big things from yesterday were when our Shelby County friends got up to speak, they kind of put into words what I was imagining this process would look like the first couple of convenings that we had, but I didn't really know how to explain it. And I think from the discussions that I heard yesterday, a lot of people felt the same way. So there's like a clear progression for us to move forward here. And the other thing was, I'm going to paraphrase Kathy. My first, she said, oh no, my first convening here, there was somebody, I forgot who it was. I wouldn't name drop them even if I remembered, but they were like, same old, same old. Every few years we redo the assessment system and nothing really changes. And she was very negative about it. And it kind of put me in like this mindset of like, is this how this process is going to work? But with each convening, I get a little more hopeful that we're really getting towards this goal. And yesterday I asked Kathy how hopeful she was that this was going to cause, lasting change for the kids of Kentucky. And she said that she was really hopeful for it because we're not doing surface level work anymore. We're diving really deep, and that makes me really happy for this whole thing. So thank you all.
Thank you, Jordan. All right. Anybody else want to share anything from yesterday? Any other thoughts? We will have a couple more reflectors this afternoon. All right. Then if there's no questions, what rooms are we going to?
Thank you. So the menu of options group will stay down here in this room. The Andres group will be upstairs in 516. Sarah's group will be upstairs in 517. And then Karen's group will be in the commissioners conference room upstairs.
All right. All right. We will see everybody back here at about 11:30. So we'll just miss the groups at 11:15, take a break, come down here at 11:30. So first up, can you go to the next slide? There we go. Menu of options is first. Who do we have sharing out on menu of options? Suzanne Farmer. Come on up.
Okay, so my team's going to help me, right? So we changed the slide because it didn't fit what we did. And what we did was really productive. We ended up having two different groups really brainstorm and discuss. Oh, that font's too small for me, too far away. So I'm going to have to look over here. But we use the design principles to inform a conversation about what we would like the whole accountability system to look like. There were a lot of concerns raised about, are we just tacking on something to our existing system? And so we had to take a step back and really dream using the design principles about what we would want our whole system to look like. And in that, we talked about could the federal system and the state system really align more? And for I think a lot of what kept coming up in our questions or in our discussion was that we needed to really focus on what we value as professionals for our students, and to not limit ourselves in our thinking to what the current system is or what we would imagine some barriers might be if we wanted to change policy. And that the state and federal could align so that there was a lot less extra and maybe some ways getting creative in how we imagine meeting those requirements, so that maybe we could there might even be choice into how districts could meet those requirements. We talked about using some of the current universal screeners that are used in districts. Maybe there's even a different system for different learners, so that not everyone is tied into an ACT or something. And we talked about really balancing student growth and authentic performance-based assessments that drive instructional practices, and really looking more heavily into performance-based assessments, and that the local system could be used as a part of that accountability measure, and the local systems would have a lot of choice, but that they would also then be bringing in their local system the subjects that are not measured in the state federal system. So that's where students could demonstrate their talents in art and social studies and science and some of the other content areas. Science would have to be measured some in our current federal system. And that we thought it'd be important to have accreditation like feedback. So that would be timely for the district, that would be quality based on a collection of evidence that the district would assemble. So then you're getting really valuable feedback. We thought a lot about we even thought about other systems like hospitality systems and other areas where what kind of feedback is valuable and how does that work, and having the opportunity then to course correct. And some of those pieces we thought were important to have in our system for education. I think I talked about that the local districts would have a lot of room to design and test their own systems. There'd be transparency, but there wouldn't be labels, and there wouldn't be any way to rank. And I know that people say right now there's not a ranking system, but there is, because people have figured out how to rank people and send those spreadsheets around, and the newspapers still report that. And no public shaming of people, so that if we have to deal with the schools on a federal level that do not that rank it a certain way, that it's handled in a way that is supportive, or feels more supportive, I guess, than the current way that's treated. And that we talked about real-time feedback for the leading indicators, and that the deeper learning indicators would really be a larger focal point of the system. Is there anything that I didn't say about our group work. Is there anything anyone wants to add? Okay. Are there any questions from people who? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. All right, our next up is engaging and communicating with communities. Azur D is doing ours. I will come to you.
We communicated.
No, we need
A
that
lot.
for the video.
We communicated, and we communicated some more, and we practiced communicating with each other. We recorded ourselves practicing communicating with each other. The biggest thing that we have decided from our work group is looking at what do we need to actually be communicating to potential stakeholders right now, which we identified a vast list of individuals. We stepped up and took groups of individuals that we're going to start talking to, asking them the questions. What are you seeing? What are you liking? What do we need to improve on? How do you feel about us changing the way we assess and determine how our kiddos are doing and how our schools are doing and our educators? We then determined that we're going to meet a lot between now and November, and we're going to let some of the other work groups, i.e. everybody else, direct what you need us to communicate to individuals and how we're going to scale that communication for the appropriate audience in the appropriate context at the appropriate time. So lots of conversation while communicating. Thank you.
Thank you, Azur D. All right, next up, we have district support for quality. Who do we have speaking on that one? I know, we just made it a real obstacle course for everybody to get up here today.
Okay, I think ours is best understood by thinking about the menu of options. So can we just go back 2 slides? Because that actually helped me in this final moment. So as they're thinking about kind of creating the menu of options and how that looks for districts, our group is more focused on what is the process that we're going to go through in order to understand how we do like quality implementation. Like how do we create local systems that are trustworthy, that folks feel like that is a good way to measure assessment, but each local district feels like they have a menu, but on the state level, we have a way to provide technical assistance to ensure high quality in every district. So that's just a little bit of how these two kind of work together. So what we talked about during our time together, and we took a lot of roundabout ways, but we landed in a pretty good spot. So how can we stay in a relationship? I think this is yesterday's slide. Yeah. I think you can go to the next one. Okay, so this is what we want to ask of, I think we kind of landed on like all of the L3s, 18 of them, and then maybe kind of a balance of another 18 to 20 other districts that are also looking at Portrait of a Learner, and even some that don't want to do it at all, who are really resistant to the idea. So we want to ask these kind of different groups, what is kind of your theory of action that's driving decisions about your system? So in my own words, like, why did you change what you already had anyway? So like, why didn't you just roll with the current accountability system? Why did you add this layer of Portrait of a Learner? Like, what were you trying to solve? And then how do you know if you got there? And then how are you making like decisions every year about what you're changing? Like, how are you iterating on that process? What are you trying to do, and how do you know if it's working? And then the next one is, how are you making, it's okay. The next question we want to know is like, how are you making sure teachers are making accurate calls about like during the defenses of learning? So how are we ensuring that it's not incredibly subjective, and that there's some real confidence in the system of when teachers are passing these kiddos after their defenses of learning? Like, what does that PD and assurance look like among teachers, among school leaders, and at the district level? So like all layers of that, so that we really have a system that we feel like we can defend even with the differences across districts. And then the last one's a little bit more of a communication, but we feel like it's a good question, is just to ask, like, how are you all talking about your new systems and building trust in them? So for us, a big thing that kind of came out of this too, which I think the menu of options hit on, is like, is the new metric growth rather than like this standard of all third graders should be at this level, but rather, did this third grader grow this year? So what is that North Star each district's looking at, and how are they ensuring that they're meeting it? And then I think we have one more. Yeah. Wait. It's okay. Okay. So our deliverables, we do in the end want to have some kind of guide for technical quality. It's a rubric in my head, but maybe it's not a rubric. But some kind of guide that says, yes, you can do all of these things in your own way as long as you have these things in place. And then that allows KDE to support to those things, so that we have some way of systematizing technical assistance, and also like, no, that's actually not a good portrait of a learner system. It's not high quality. What is quality? We want to have case studies of how different folks have gone about creating. So really showing that like you can do this in a variety of ways. Here's this example, here's this example, here's this example, but they all have a common thread among them. And what's that common thread? And then really kind of thinking about that pitch deck that we're going to have for legislators, for KDE, for KBE, to say, you can trust this system because, like, what are we going to be able to say is like our defense of why it's something that you can trust? And that's going to be a huge piece of, I think, our work as a council. And then proposed processes. We want to figure out how we're going to learn from these districts. Like, what does that look like? Is it a survey? Is it interviews? How are we going to learn from folks already out there doing it? And creating community between districts so that they can build each other's capacity.
Thank you, Brooke. And for how you're going to learn, keep in mind the communications team, because that's what we're here to help you all with. All right, who's our last one? Learning with local districts.
All right. So we actually kind of addressed some of the last things she mentioned in our working session. So we decided to work on a tool that would support districts who are either in the process of designing a new assessment or accountability system, incorporating, wanting to try out, being new at some of these things. Ways to connect them with each other from districts that are already making progress and have, learned lessons, right? So we decided to create like a mock-up kind of a website that we would then share with some districts to get input and feedback from them on, if you're heading down this direction, is this the sort of thing that will be helpful to you? Or if not, how can we improve it? And then really focusing on how do we balance agency guidance and district models to really hit that design principle of valuing local context and expertise. So we want it to not just be top down, but also, ground up. Pulling in, all those L3s and, places that are doing good work already. So let's see what else. We felt like it also really hit on the design principles about supporting vibrant learning experiences. And we drew on the work of the AI committee, I believe, that had the menu of options that they had lined out, that they were looking into providing. And that's kind of the same direction we went on providing examples on each of those types of items in the menu of options. So we're planning an in-person work day to finalize that mock-up and then discuss and create like a plan to get that out and share it with local districts for feedback.
Thank you. Really good work, everybody. What I noticed was how much interaction there is going to be among all of these work groups, right? So the synergy among all of them. You all even went back to some of each other's slides. So I think that's really awesome. Is there anything that is percolating with you that we didn't go over that you thought we would get to over these 2 days? No? Okay. Anybody have any new ideas or different ideas about the work we've been doing because of these 2 days?
Because of all of the work that we've done, I'm wondering, I believe our next convening is scheduled for November. I think that that's too long a time to wait to get us back together because of all the work that was accomplished these last 2 days. So I would suggest one more convening before the November convening, if possible.
Okay. How does everybody else feel about that? Raise your hand if you think having a summer convening is a good idea. A lot. Okay. Okay. We will definitely start looking at the calendar. Yeah.
Where we can talk about the things that each one of the groups is doing.
Yeah, so we do that at a leadership facilitator level. And that's the purpose. Actually twice a month, we get together and talk about what's going on in each of the work groups or each of the committees so that we know what everybody is doing and are able to share that. The idea then, the chairs and vice chairs are invited to those. So if you're not getting that, if you haven't been hearing any of that from your chair of your committee or now work group, if your leaders aren't sharing, they should be sharing that stuff with you. If that's not happening, then we do have a systematic issue going on there that we need to figure out how to fix. Let us think about, because I know like our group, working with communities, did talk about meeting 4 times over the summer. If we're going to have another convening, maybe we don't need to meet. Maybe we can use that time and knock out at least 1 or 2 of those meetings. So I think we're going to need to regroup and think about what that would look like if we all get together again over the summer. That wasn't something I had expected to hear, but it's exciting. I'm glad that you all want to get back together. That's really cool. Okay. So give us some time to work on that. Travis, you had a question.
I just have a statement, just a reflection, if I could.
Please.
I left yesterday with, I would have characterized my own personal state as disappointment. I would tell you that today I have a renewed sense of optimism about where we're headed. I see, as I listen to the different groups report out, I see, for me, like I said yesterday, like it's how it lands on us and how we receive it in our context, right? All those things matter. But as I hear the share out, I see lots of connectivity between these groups reporting out, and that's really encouraging to me. And also, I'd say I echo the need for that meeting, because I think we got to process that connectivity of these things, because there's real momentum, I think, if we can embrace that and see how they're connected.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? Other thoughts you want to share? Go ahead. Pass that on over.
I think at some point the extension of this group is going to go talk to these folks, send out to everyone. Like whenever there was a group coming to Bowling Green, going to different schools and things, I thought that was very helpful. And I think it's going to be even more essential now, because I know for me, if I were sitting in a school and your work group came and talked to me, and your work group came and talked to me, and your work group, I would get really annoyed.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I think possibly a calendar of some kind, or a week or 2 weeks of, by the way, we're headed over here.
Yeah.
If you have intentions or need of joining us, please come ahead.
Yeah. And that's part of what we're doing with our communications team, right? We're trying to figure out when, because we talked about a lot of conferences and stuff that'll be going on over the summer, and making sure that we have a list of that. So that is something that we would need to share with the entire KUWL Council to know what's coming up and who's going to be going. So you're right, we don't want to inundate people, but we want to be where we can do the most good. Yeah. Other thoughts?
Brooke shared the idea that we would create like some sort of pitch deck that essentially describes the system and describes why it was needed, how it fulfills that need, and why we should feel confident in it. It could be something that kind of unifies the different groups because we're all creating components of such a deck. And it could be something that becomes the foundation. When we talked about prototypes to share with the field, that could be an example of one of those things. Like when we take it on the road, we're taking this pitch deck and we're saying, here's the system we're proposing, here's why it's necessary, here's how it'll work, here's how this is why you should trust it, and start to get people's reactions to that. Because ultimately we're going to have to get practiced at making that case over and over and over again to communities, to businesses, to the legislature, to many, many different potential stakeholders in the process.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I did have a couple people lined up to do some reflections. Sarah Hatton, is she? I haven't seen Sarah. She's still. Oh, there you are. You want to go from there, or you want to come up? Sure.
So just thinking about the whole morning, I'm just excited about the direction that we're moving in and the potentials. I've spent the last 2 days with the menu of options work group, which is kind of the part that I was most interested in off of the Accelerated Innovation Standing Committee. And just thinking about the potential for our students and for the children that we serve on how we can provide school that's more meaningful to them is the part that's got me excited about going out, as Kathy said, with getting some grassroots movement going and spreading the word.
Thank you. You can just hand it right to Jim.
Okay, so I'm really excited about
Yay.
What's happened the last couple of days, and even what's starting to crystallize to me is this dream that I think we can make happen for our kids, and so. But Justin said something that really connected with me yesterday. He said, "I really wished that I would have been able to experience this as a student," and that makes me think, especially in the work that I do a lot, is to try to help inspire a policy environment that makes this kind of work possible everywhere. And I hear some of the innovators say, well, we find workarounds. We figure out how to do it in spite of that. But what we know is if we want Justin's dream to come true, where every student can have these kinds of experiences, then that policy environment has to line up so that it is inspiring and supporting this kind of work. But this is challenging, right? And I'm reminded of this little story that I love, and I love to tell this story and connect it, but it's about a barber and a little boy. And one day this barber is cutting this guy's hair, and he looks out the window of the barber shop and he sees this little boy heading up toward the barber shop. And he says to the customer, he said, "You want to see the dumbest little boy in the world? Watch this. He comes in here every other day or so, and you just watch." So sure enough, little boy walks into the barber shop. Barber says, "All right, young man, come over here." He pulls out 2 quarters and a $1 bill. He puts 2 quarters in one hand, $1 in another hand. He said, "All right, which one do you want?" Little boy looks, grabs the 2 quarters, and takes off out of the barber shop. Barber laughs and says, see, every time he comes in here, he always picks the 2 quarters. So finishes cutting the customer's hair, and he gets up and leaves the barber shop, and he's walking through town, sees a little boy coming out of the ice cream shop. He's eating his cone, and he says, I'm going to ask that little boy why he always chooses the quarters. So he goes up and he says, young man, barber offers you $1 or 2 quarters, and you always pick the 2 quarters. He said, why do you do that? He said, if I ever picked $1, game's over. So here's my connection. Oftentimes what we think is going on around here, there's a lot of different viewpoints of that, right? And it's important if we want change to occur, we have to bridge that gap. So what people perceive is going on, we're all moving toward the same thing. And so my challenge to us all is, what is our leadership strategy and practice going to be to help bridge that gap? Okay, we want people seeing what we see. We want people joining us, and we want all of those groups helping create a grassroots effort that's going to make this dream a reality. And it's going to take a lot of people working toward the same thing to make it happen, because no matter what we try to do, we're going to have a bunch of barbers out there seeing this a little bit differently maybe than us, because hopefully we're the little boy, right? But we got to get them on the same page. And so I want to challenge us is to go out there and tell these stories, use these tools. You gave us an opportunity to record voices and send it so that we can use those to tell those stories. We have a roadmap now with some timelines, and this vision is starting to crystallize about what this moonshot can actually be. And that's exciting. But we've got a lot of work to do to get all these different factions, or invested stakeholders, I like to call them, to join us. But that's incumbent on us. We can't just say, department folks, y'all do this, and we're behind you. We've got to be with them, telling these stories and doing it too. And so I'm really excited about the potential, but I also know the monumental task in front of us. But it's starting to come together, and we can make this happen, you all. And sometimes I hear voices that are like, well, but this group won't listen to us, or that group won't. But they will, because there's so much more in common about education for our kids that we have than we don't. And so just remember that, and don't buy into that certain groups aren't going to join us. They will, and there's traction points to make it happen. And so let's believe, let's all join together and make it happen. I can't wait till the next time we come together, because one thing that Jennifer, she told us that by late May or early June, we're going to have some prototypes on the moonshot to look at and react to. And so it's starting to come together, and let's just keep moving it, because it's worth it for our kids. And we can't let Justin down, right?
Thank you, Dr. Flynn. Commissioner Kinney.
Well, I'll back clean up here, I think. Thank you all for the work that you've done over the last couple of days. It's been inspiring. It's opened my eyes to some things a little different than what I thought. And I hope you've had some of those aha moments as well. I echo everything that Jim says. It is how we sell it and the conversation that we build. And that conversation isn't the same for every audience that we're going to be approaching. So I too believe that we have a lot more people that are with us. It's just having that conversation in a way that we can agree with each other. So, and part of what I feel, and I shared with the group that I was listening in with today, is I feel this sense of urgency. I know that you all are doing the good, hard work, thoughtful, meaningful, thinking of all the angles in the space we're in. But when we think about it, this interim period of our General Assembly is a great time for us to really start talking about why this is important to our kids. And so I'm encouraged. I know what Karen's thinking when she hears another convening, because, you know, from the budget side, she's going, Robin's going to ask me about the budget and how we're going to do this. And we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out with this interest. But the interim is a time for us to really start talking with our legislative body about what this will look like. And in order to do that, it has to be, I would say, with sufficient information, not detailed down to the ground, every little single part that's going to happen, but with sufficient detail that we can really explain what we're trying to accomplish, why it will work, and I love the group that said why they can trust what we are coming up with, because we all want to be able to trust the system, whatever that system looks like. You know, we hear too often there are consequences and people trying to game the system. So we want to be very thoughtful at the beginning that we mitigate any of those chances so that people can rally around it and really believe in it. So Jim and I have already been talking about working with the legislature, talking about some opportunities that he has when he pulls all the superintendents together, that we can talk about United We Learn and the progress we've made so far. I hope with Representative Tipton's help, we'll have some opportunities during the interim joint session to really talk with the legislative body. But that's why I feel this sense of urgency. We'll need to talk to them many times between now and actually execution. But I really think this summer is sort of our kickoff to really make that start happening. So thank you for taking the time away from your regular responsibilities, which are all really important, but time to help us build this new opportunity for our students.
Thank you, Robin. All right. Well, that is a wrap for this convening. Do mark your calendars for November 7th and 8th. That is a Thursday, Friday. That will be a convening. We already have it booked. We have this area booked again for then. We will look, I'm sitting here doing math in my head. I'm thinking mid to late July maybe would be a good halfway point if we're able to pull off another convening over the summer. So we'll have to get all of our leadership and facilitators together and see if that works for everybody. But we will do our very best to pull you all back in again. In the meantime, hopefully all of your work groups talked about virtual meetings. I know some of you just talked about some in-person meetings. Maybe that could even happen at the convening if we choose to do that. So yeah, are there any questions? All right, we do have lunch and you are welcome to stay and network if you'd like to. I was asked to tell you to go out this door for lunch, and if you want to come back in and eat here, come back in this other door. You're also free to take it to go if you need to get going. So thank you all so much for all of your participation. Great job. We'll see you soon.
Please leave your name tags and table tents on your tables and we'll come around and get them after.